to the Mr. He Got Game Show. Today we got a panel discussing the struggles of single parenting. We're going to start off with an introduction. We got Tish DeShields, we got Cassandra Winters Pickard, and we got Brandon Whitmore. We'll be right back to get started with the show. Welcome back to the Mr. He Got Game Show. We're going to go ahead and get started on the discussions of the struggles of single parenting. The first question is, how did you become a single parent?
I got married when I was fairly young. I got married at the age of 19. I was married for 17 years and found myself faced with making a decision of whether or not I wanted to stay in this marriage that was unhealthy or, make a change for the sake of the whole family unit, meaning me and my 4 children. So that's how I found myself getting a divorce. I was in a relationship. I married my high school sweetheart. And, there was some issues throughout the course of the marriage, but as the kids got older, they began to see the unhealthy things that were going on, and I had to make a decision. And so I decided to file for divorce, which was very difficult because no one ever gets married with the intention of getting a divorce. So it was very, very difficult. So that's how I found myself single.
Well, I was married for almost 12 years, and I too found myself in an unhealthy marriage, and I had 4 daughters, so it was really important for me to allow them to grow up in an environment that was peaceful, without any violence and arguing, yelling, cussing, fighting, and they need to know how a real man is supposed to treat them, and that certain behaviors are not acceptable. So I too made the decision to file for divorce and to raise my 4 daughters on my own as well.
She left me. No, but basically the same story. We met when we were 14 years old. We were together 20 years and just woke up bored. And I didn't agree with the divorce thing or anything like that, or you made a commitment to stick to it, but yeah, she left me.
Could you briefly describe a normal day or a normal week?
Okay, a normal day for me starts most times at like 5 a.m. I usually get up at 5 just so that I can hit the gym, work out, and then I call from the gym to wake up my oldest child, who is, my second oldest, she's 17. My oldest child is actually 20, and he's out on his own. So I call my oldest daughter to wake her up and make sure she gets ready for school, and then she can get the younger siblings, for the most part, up and almost ready for school. So after I leave the gym, I come home, take the 2 younger ones to school. Once I drop them off, I come home and check emails, jump in the shower, check whatever mail I have to go before I head to the office. I am an entrepreneur. I own my own company, which definitely gives me the flexibility to be a part of the kids' after-school curricular activities and, have lunch with them in the middle of the day. So for the most part, I get a lot of my legwork done in the morning so that I can get some productive work done at the office before 3:30, and that's when the youngest child comes home and I have to start doing the, practices and, the running and ripping.
A normal week for me, my days always start at 6 a.m. and then I go into my garage and get on the treadmill. Then I get off and I wake my youngest daughter up for school. Then I wake my 2 teenagers up for school because they won't get up. And then I wake my middle schooler up for school. I get them all up and out by about 8:15, 8:30. And then I check my emails. I'm a real estate agent. When I get done checking emails, making phone calls, then I do my schoolwork. I'm also a full-time student. And then by the time I do that, it's time for my little one to get home from school, or I have to go show some houses, or it's time for ballet, lacrosse, or something like that. So my days are long. And then dinner, more homework, and making sure my kids' homework is done and everybody gets to bed. So that's a normal day for me.
Well, a normal day for me is about the same. I wake up at 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning. Make sure, I don't wake them up, but I make sure they get up and get dressed and do what they have to do. I'm a general contractor, and I fix and build things and just about anything, so throughout the day. I go out to work, so I swing hammers and sledgehammers, so I don't actually get on the treadmill. So I guess that's how I stay in shape. But I'm out all day long working. By the time I get off work, I come home, make sure dinner's cooked, and homework for a good hour or so, and they go to those iPhones, and it's off to bed for me. As far as getting me time in, you know, I might go out on the weekends or to like a comedy show with my friends and things like that every now and then, but there ain't much me time at all. And when I do go out, I go out with friends that I've known for years and years and years, and it's just like, you know, I'm bored. I'll take them to drinks, something, dinner, to get out of the house, but there's really not much me time going on at all. It's really just raising a family and being at home and making sure your kids are okay and things like that. You know. But I do get out and, you know, things I want to do, I make the time for. It's more or less a situation where they might have to have their own place because I just don't introduce and bring people to the house like that unless I'm, you know, for sure about something. And I just haven't gotten to that point yet, so I'm still working on that. But as far as those times goes, yeah, it's done away from the house.
I don't even know what me time is. I have 4 daughters as well, so I guess my me time is when I'm on the treadmill or when I'm watching a movie after the kids go to bed. I do go out from time to time with my girls. We have ladies' night out or something, or if I go out on a date, I make time for that. But I don't think I really have consistent me time.
Well, I make time for me time. Some people in Atlanta consider me a socialite. With the help of my mother, I'm able to get out and attend a lot of events, a lot of galas, a lot of balls, and a lot of birthday parties. So I do find the time to be a little selfish, and I purpose to have some me time. My kids, my oldest son is 20, my oldest daughter is 17, I have a 13-year-old son, and I have a 9-year-old daughter. So they're fairly old enough to kind of fend for themselves, but my mother does come around and she'll sit with the kids if I do have to go out. And my schedule gets pretty full. I make sure the kids are definitely in bed so that I can attend events. And for the most part, I mean, I might attend a function or some kind of event at least 3 to 4, maybe 5 times a week. But for the most part, my kids are in bed when I'm out and about.
I think for me, the biggest challenge is to being a single parent is trying to find a balance to make sure that they get everything that they need in a well-rounded environment, having male figures around them as well as female figures, also being able to see how a true functioning relationship should work and not giving up and quitting. I think that's really important in being a single parent.
Well, since my youngest is 11, my oldest is 19, and I got 2 in the middle. Yeah, I braid hair, press perm, wash curl, everything. So yeah, I do everything. But my biggest challenge now is related to a 14-year-old girl and their secrets and what their challenges are, because I'm daddy to them and they don't want to talk to daddy no matter how much they love me about boys and things like that now. But you know, they'll send me to the store to buy 10 packs.
Okay, one of my biggest challenges raising 4 children, my 2 older children are in the top 1% in the country in their sporting events. My oldest son was drafted right out of high school in the first round in baseball. My oldest daughter right now currently is the most decorated high school female basketball player in the country. She currently holds 4 gold medals playing USA basketball. She's been Miss Georgia basketball, Sports Illustrated, you name it. The list goes on and on and on. So one of my biggest challenges with raising my 4 children is dealing with social media and technology and the internet. So yes, I have to police their websites and their Twitter accounts and their Facebook, just to make sure that they're being really careful about what they put out there. And then I have the 2 younger kids that see their older brothers having Facebook and Twitter, and they feel like they need to be a part of that. That is one of the biggest challenges that I have, and just balancing and just trying to make sure that the kids themselves stay well-rounded. Again, they're in the top percent, in top 1 or 2% in the country. So just trying to keep them humble, trying to stress to them the importance of keeping God in their lives and a part of every equation. And so I would like to think that I'm doing a fairly good job of keeping them well-rounded.
Okay, let's get to talk about absentee parent, okay? How much time in your particular situation does an absentee parent spend with your children?
I mean, I would say she sees them daily, but it's only to pick them up and drop them off to school on her way to work. And that's about it. And that's about 5 minutes out of the day. I live almost across the street from the school. So it's not much. Then they'll go, every once in a while when she's home and has time for them over their house on the weekends and things like that. But for the most part, not very much time.
Well, my 2 younger children are by my ex-husband, so we have joint custody. So he has them 3.5 days, and I have them 3.5 days. And my older 2 children, they don't really see their dad too much. So I would say less than 5%.
Yes. Well, my ex-husband, he doesn't spend a lot of time with the kids, and it's not because he doesn't want to. For the most part, he's not around because of his profession, his job. He's a minor league baseball coach. So for 8 months out of the year, he's literally in a whole other state. So as far as him helping me with the sharing of the custody, it's almost impossible. The 3 or 4 months that he is at home, he will come to their sporting events and he tries his best to do as much as he can, but the kids are now older and they have their friends and they prefer to just kind of stay at my house. And we agree to that. It's not, we never have any issues as far as whose house the kids are at. Sometimes they do spend time with them on the weekend, but for the most part, when you got a kid that's like, on the U.S. team and she's in Colorado or an Olympic training center, and you've got a son who's playing minor league baseball, it's really difficult for them to really spend time with their dad. So he may spend a little bit more time with the 2 younger kids just because they're smaller and they don't have as many activities.
I think that there are so many single-family households because I think people have gotten away from the fact that they have to fight to keep relationships together, that a relationship is work, and that it's not okay to just say I'm leaving or get out. I think that it doesn't teach the children, it doesn't give the children a good example. So we have to work harder at keeping our relationships better so that we can show our children how to be in relationships, because a lot of these young kids nowadays having babies don't even know how to hold a relationship because they haven't had good examples at home.
I mean, I definitely agree that, I really think that a lot of our men don't know how to be men. And I believe that a lot of our women don't know how to be women. And nothing against, the man or the woman. It's just that we just haven't been taught. For the most part, we have had a lot of children, raising children, and they're just not equipped to handle relationships, whether they be relationships with their friends. Like she just said, no one wants to fight. For a relationship, whether it's with your sister friend, your cousin, it's so everybody appears to be disposable these days, and no one values, we don't value one another, and especially when it comes to marriage, many people don't understand that. Like divorce, for instance, divorce affects the next 5 generations, and so if you think about it, you just think about how this vicious cycle just keeps going, and it just keeps going, and no one wants to stop and say no more. I didn't want my sons to grow up and see the unhealthy relationship that I had with their dad. I didn't want my daughters to grow up and think that his behavior was acceptable and that she would have to endure that type of treatment. And I think in the long run, I think my children respect respect me more for walking out because they see my strength and they see me now as a leader, and they can now come to me and ask for guidance and direction. Now, as I was going through the divorce, I didn't think it was a good idea because, you know, I got married at 19. Like, whoever thinks that they're going to get a divorce? But at the end of the day, I think my children really look up to me now and say, you know what, she did what was best for the family.
I guess I agree with the ladies were saying about, you know, but I just look at it a different way. I just think that people are lazy, and when you say work at it, you got to understand what work means. Like if you get into an argument or a fight, it's real lazy of you to just to walk away and give up instead of actually trying to think of a way to correct the problem or to apologize or to be sweet or special in that situation, to work at that. You know, to make the understanding of what the word work means instead of just giving up and walking away. That's being lazy, and you know, I've been around for so long and it just don't matter. It's gonna be the same thing the next day. Well, work at creating a better way for the next day instead of just giving up. So I think that's why. And really, I think our generation has a 50-50 chance of being correct as far as parenting goes, because it set an example, because we didn't really ever have one. And if you look back over time, it just, you know, we might be the first generation to actually want to raise kids in the family setting and environment where men just aren't walking away and realizing they were being trapped in the prisons and making the changes. So I think we're probably going to set an example for the future as far as, you know, what marriage should look like and what it actually is.
What advice would you give to other single parents? That's the question that I'm going to give you, okay? What advice would you give to other single parents out there? All right?
Well, I think my one word of advice to all single parents, I mean, to everyone, is to keep God first. Keep God a part of every equation, every decision. He has definitely been my source, and I know without him, I would not be where I am today. I had the husband who had a very lucrative career and, afforded me a particular lifestyle, but at the end of the day, God was my source, and he was just a vehicle to give me the things that I had. And once I came to realize that, I was able to, sever that relationship with the man, because I knew the man was never my source to begin with. And going through that process gave me the strength to stand up finally and be strong for my children. And they too know that whenever they're in trouble or whenever they need, anything, granted I'm here, but they know that they are just a gift from God. I mean, they're really not even mine. They're just on loan to me, until he calls all of us home. So at the end of the day, when my kids are traveling internationally and they're traveling across the country, they know that granted mom is always going to be there, but they too know that their ultimate source is God.
A lot of people are going to give you a lot of different advice, but in the end, you have to use your own common sense and do what works for you and your family, because you're going to know what works best for you and your family and your situation. So do the best that you can. Realize that you're going to make mistakes, and life is a journey, it's not a destination. So we have to keep going and make changes along the way, and hopefully we'll teach our kids something good as we go.
Don't give up. Luckily, I had a strong support system of a lot of females in my family and things like that and all, but just don't give up. It's going to be another day, another try, another time, so just don't give up and keep strong, keep at it, keep your head up. But, it's going to happen, and you'll be able to get through.
What question would you like me to ask one of the panelists?
I know with all the rap music and different things that go on today, kids can try you. From time to time, you have to whoop that ass. Just for that. I'm sorry. Whoop that tail. Sorry.
That's not a question, man. You got a question? Or we're going to cut you out. That's not a question. That's a statement. If you whoop that tail, that's a statement. Yo, hey, keep in mind, now, just because I give you the mic don't mean you're going to be on film, okay?
I have a question. I would like to know, when do you guys feel is the best time to introduce your children to the person that you're dating? 3 months, 6 months, 6 weeks, 2 days? What do you feel is the best? And is work out in a year? Do you introduce them to multiple people in a year or what?
I would say at least 6 months. I would say at least wait 6 months before you introduce your children to your potential new partner. That should give you enough time to kind of get to know him and, bring him around to perhaps sporting events, not 6 months and he's coming in your home and sleeping there. I mean, having, public gatherings outside of the home, things of that nature.
I don't know that I have a certain time frame because I think that children are very intuitive. And if I find that I'm interested in someone, I'm definitely going to introduce them to my children, at least the older ones, because your kids will see things that you never do. So, you have to gauge that against how you're feeling with the person that you're dating, and then I think it's a good idea to introduce them to the kids. It's not a secret. I have kids, they're a part of my package. So I don't want to take 6 months and then my kids can't stand him, or he doesn't interact well with my children. So that's just way too long for me personally.
I guess I feel as though that, I got good judgment character, so if I'm gonna like somebody and date them, I'm gonna make sure my kids like them pretty soon and before I get too many feelings involved. Because if my girls don't like them, I don't have a problem with leaving you and finding somebody else. And I don't have a problem with dating you. So, but if my girls got a problem with you, then I guess I'm gonna have one too. I have not necessarily ever brought anybody home that my girls didn't like, so I haven't experienced that situation. Wait a minute, my sister's saying differently. You got a name or something? Nothing they told me at least.
I think that if I bring someone home or I introduce someone to my children that they definitely don't like, that means that they've picked up on something usually that I haven't seen, because I think that my girls, I've tried to raise them to be accepting and open-minded. So I would definitely take their thought into account when I'm making a decision as to whether I'm going to date that person further.
I personally, I have not brought anyone home that my children have not liked. Once again, I think they trust my judgment and my character, and they know that I'm not going to bring anyone in the house that's not befitting or appropriate. And the couple of guys that have come home, the kids have actually absolutely adored them, and they've been great guys. They just haven't been great guys for me, but I do believe at the end of the day, I've made some great friends, and they'll always be a part of our lives in some way, shape, or fashion. So, but my kids, if they did pick up on something, I too would trust their, intuition and their gut feeling, and start to perhaps look a little bit more into what their concerns are.